What's up, everybody? Welcome to IGN Game Scoop. I'm your host, Damon Hatfield. This is Ryan McCaffrey. That's Mitch Dyer. Together they make IGN's Xbox team. And this is our editor-in-chief, Casey Lynch.
What's going on?
Recently, we put up an article on the 10 bold predictions for Xbox in 2013.
It's going to be a heck of a year.
Well, you think so? Yeah, I think it'll be
I'm pretty sure.
We're pretty confident.
Yeah,
this
bigger
is,
than 2012, if you can believe it.
This was the article here, but you're right. Some of these predictions are bold, but there wasn't any sort of, explanation for how you came to these predictions. So I was hoping to maybe shed a little bit more light on some of these topics today.
Sure.
Let's just go through the list, shall we? Number 1, you guys said State of Decay and Loco Cycle will be the stars of this year's Summer of Arcade. First of all, remind everyone what these two games are. We haven't heard about it in a while.
Start with State of Decay.
So State of Decay, as I understand it, is an open world zombie game, Xbox Live Arcade, lots of tower defense elements with like crafting, and I believe there's some vehicle stuff involved, lots of survival elements like hiding from zombies and melee combat. Very similar
forts.
to forts, all sorts of survival stuff. So if you know DayZ or the Warzy on PC, similar inspiration there.
It's not a Twitch action game. It's a lot deeper than that.
Mm-hmm. And then Loco Cycle is by Twisted Pixel, the guys that do Splosion Man.
Yeah, this is their first game. If you might remember, Microsoft bought Twisted Pixel a year or two back. And this is their first game as a Microsoft first-party studio. And Twisted Pixel is always, I'm a huge fan of theirs because their games have some of the best character designs ever. I mean, it's the Maw, the little plushy Maw still sits on my desk. There's the Gunstringer, Ms. Splosion Man, Mr. Splosion Man, and Comic Jumper, yeah, with Captain Smiley. So their characters are always great, and so their new game is about a sentient motorcycle. It talks and it rides itself, and there's if you watch the trailer that's embedded in the article, you're dragging around the human lead in the game, which and there's no explanation given for this. So just given Twisted Pixel's very fascinating history and the really compelling games they tend to make, I cannot wait to find out more about that game. And I feel like it's Microsoft, it's Twisted Pixel, their first game together. So I think they're gonna put it up in Summer of Arcade and really shine the light on it.
Yeah, so that one makes a lot of sense. Why do you think State of Decay would be picked as well?
It's a really ambitious exclusive, right? Like this is only coming to XBLA.
Yeah.
It's a big game. It's not like anything else we've seen on Live Arcade. It's just like this complicated game that is more akin to something you'd expect on a PC. Like a lot like DayZ, right? Like you see these games come out and you're like, oh, that's maybe like a $15 full-fledged PC game.
And it's been around for a while. Really savvy watchers may remember a game code named Class 3, which is what this now is.
That's right. And then at Microsoft's E3 showcase last year, they showed another game that's like a fantasy from the guys that made Toy Soldiers.
Oh,
yes. The free-to-play game.
What was that called?
Ascend, right?
Ascend, yeah. Ascend New Gods.
So we haven't heard about that one since E3, I don't think.
That one will probably also be a Summer of Arcade game.
Good chance.
There was like an asynchronous multiplayer element to that. It sounded almost maybe like a card game that you would kind of play like with the fantasy characters and stats and different
it was playable
skill
at
bonuses and
E3.
stuff like that. Yeah,
So
it was really rough though.
So we might see that one on or before Summer of Arcade.
But there aren't a whole lot of other forthcoming
not
XBLA games that we know about, are there?
Skulls of the Shogun is coming, but that just passed cert, so that'll be soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's how it goes with Live Arcade. It's it's not often that we find out about them way in advance. They tend to come announcement versus release tends to be a pretty short window.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, well, speaking of Xbox Live Arcade games, number 2, your prediction is Shadow Complex 2 will finally be announced as an Xbox Live Arcade launch title on the next generation Xbox.
Yeah. So
there's a lot going on in that.
There's a lot to talk about. So
Shadow Complex was 2008, I want to say.
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
It was a very successful game, very highly reviewed, sold a lot. Great game. I think it pulled home some Live Arcade Game of the Year awards from various outlets.
But then
Infinity Blade happened.
Yeah.
So Chair Entertainment, which is actually I believe since Shadow Complex released, Epic Games, of course makers of Unreal, purchased Chair outright. So Chair is now, like Twisted Pixel, is a subsidiary of Microsoft. Epic owns Chair, and so they've been working on the Infinity Blade series because that, of course, for iOS or iPad here has turned into a huge money-making franchise. One of the biggest games on the Apple ecosystem.
And of course, Infinity Blade shows off the Unreal technology on the iOS platform like nothing else. It was one of the first games to truly do that and provide that kind of AAA experience.
Yeah, they've been featured at almost every Apple keynote event where they're showing off either a new iPhone or a new iPad. Like, okay, we have our new Apple device, and here's the new Infinity Blade game that makes it look awesome.
Yeah.
And so where this comes from is, I have heard through the grapevine that Shadow Complex 2 has been drawn up.
Sure.
It's all designed.
Sure.
It just needs somebody to make it, because Chair has been busy with with Infinity Blade. So I suspect, given the love and the previous success of Shadow Complex, Microsoft/Epic, they're going to find a way to get Shadow Complex 2 done, whether it's by Chair or by someone else, using that existing design work, and we're going to see it as one of the showcase titles for Live Arcade on the next system.
I would love to see that happen, but I think it's interesting that you even think Xbox Live Arcade is going to be a part of the next Xbox, because Microsoft seems to have totally lost interest in Xbox Live Arcade.
I think that's completely untrue. I think they've lost interest in promoting it in the same capacity they used to. Like, it's not on the dashboard as prominently as it used to be, just by consequence of them adding so much to the live network, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's all these different apps and all these different things that they're trying to get out there to make people aware of, that Arcade just kind of fell by the wayside. Well, and I don't think that's out of any lack of interest, because we're still seeing a lot of huge stuff coming.
The one word rebuttal I would have,
no game out this week.
Well, the one word rebuttal to your stance statement, I think, is Minecraft.
Well, yes. So what
Live Arcade is still very much a moneymaker.
The point I'm saying is that who knows what the business model will be for the next Xbox. Downloadable games are becoming more and more present.
Absolutely.
If it used to be there were retail games and then downloadable Xbox Live Arcade games. I think today and going forward that line is
sure.
increasingly
and come
blurred.
next gen, right?
So
like
it's like, what is the point of having a specific Xbox Live Arcade? Maybe it can just be games for Xbox.
Right, like games on demand and Live Arcade kind of become one thing.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I think that what's going to happen is it's just going to sort of be boiled down into the marketplace, and they'll just be games. And it may not be
some games are smaller than others.
But yeah, and hopefully the good thing that might come from that too is to open up the platform so that more developers can get on it, not have to jump through as many hoops.
Well, that and the price structure could break down a bit too. You know, maybe a Shadow Complex 2 as more of a premium game might be $20, whereas in today's marketplace, today's arcade, it might be $15. But we might see more games like, I don't know what a good example is, but Anarchy Reigns is out this week. Maybe that's a digital download for $25.
Sure.
And so
it's only 30 at retail.
Right, but you kind of see where I'm going with it. Where we might see, as opposed to just $15 games and $60 games, we might see a lot more in between, sort of based on that fits sort of what the game is.
Now, before we leave Shadow Complex, I think it's interesting about Shadow Complex 2. It's one of these games that may have gotten caught at the end cycle. Like, okay, so Chair's busy with Infinity Blade, but how many other games are out there like Shadow Complex 2 where the developer says, okay, we could do this, but we're getting really close to new hardware. And so what if we just work on these other projects and we'll wait for this new hardware to come? And we were talking about how we don't even know what other games might be in the summer of arcade. There's so many games that haven't been announced. Like, we look at our release schedule for 2013 and past June, like we really don't know what's happening. Yeah, it's because we're waiting on this new generation of hardware. So, I think that's probably what happened amidst everything else that was going on with Infinity Blade.
So speaking of the new hardware, prediction number 3.
Great segues, by the way.
Thank you.
You are impressive. This is why you're the best, Damon.
Prediction number 3. Said next generation Xbox will be publicly announced at a special event 1 month or less prior to E3 in June. It will be broadcast live on Xbox Live and the internet. So recently, Major Nelson put up on a countdown, basically, which we know is leading up to E3 on his blog. And a lot of people thought that was leading up to
an epic troll of the users.
So you think the next Xbox will actually be unveiled before E3?
Absolutely. There's no way Microsoft is sharing the spotlight with the entire industry, and this goes for Sony as well. Even though I don't know Sony as well as I know Microsoft, they're all going to announce at their own separate events, I feel. And in Microsoft's case in particular, you can point right back. They're going to follow the Xbox 360 playbook where they can, because that playbook worked. And that playbook was, they had a half-hour special on MTV hosted by Elijah Wood in about 2 weeks before E3 in 2005.
He's relevant again.
He's around.
He's in that dog TV show.
So while it probably won't be on MTV or MTV2 or MTV anything, I do think that they're going to have their own big event where the spotlight belongs to them and them alone, and then E3 will be all about the games and what those things can do. But I think the actual, what it's called, what it looks like, is going to be in a separate event.
Typically, Microsoft holds an event in the spring called, what's it called?
The Showcase.
Spring Showcase.
It used to be like it'd be like a fancy resort.
Oh, you were thinking like XO8 and
that was
whatever.
something separate. So yeah,
they gave that up a while back.
Yeah, they used to do that. So I haven't heard anything announcements about a Spring Showcase yet.
Not yet. It's early. Okay. It's early.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make any sense for Microsoft to go into E3 this year and, like you said, share. I think the whole point of doing something early is to do it alone, to do it totally controlled, and to do a lot of the boring businessy type stuff, so that when E3 comes, it will be about the games, but it will also be about actually seeing and touching and playing. Whereas we'll get the initial kind of, oh my gosh, pull the curtain off, and this is what it looks like, this is what it does, these are the specs. And there'll probably be some game announcements with that first initial reveal, the big stuff. But
probably a sizzle reel with a bunch of tech demos,
and a bunch of logos, lots of like, hey, coming soon. So but then E3 really will be about the proof in the pudding, where we'll be able to see the actual system and play it.
Now I like prediction number 4. I really hope this turns out to be true.
This has been the one that everybody's been commenting the most on, too. Yeah,
we've been conspiring on this one for a while.
Microsoft will take a page out of Apple's playbook and officially call the next-gen Xbox simply Xbox. Losing the 360, not anything fancy. Not Xbox 720, not Xbox Infinity, not anything else. We'll casually refer to it as the new Xbox for a while until it's not new anymore.
Take it away, Mitch.
It just makes sense, right? Like, why would they go with Xbox? I mean, so when Xbox 360 came out, it was coming out alongside the PlayStation 3. The Xbox 360 had the 3 in the front. It sounded like kind of on par with PlayStation 3. From here, you can't really go Xbox, 4, Xbox
480.
Right. So Infinity.
Durango.
Yeah, Durango.
Nope.
I mean, we've been talking around the office that maybe Infinity, because Windows 8 is out, turn that sideways. Xbox Infinity, crazy, right? I just think it makes a lot more sense to go back to basics, to just say Xbox for exactly these reasons. We'll just talk about the Xbox. In addition to that, Microsoft's been rebranding everything it has with Xbox. We have Xbox games on Windows right now. Windows 8 has Xbox everything. Xbox Music exists. Everything is Xbox.
Right, and it's all about, and remember, Microsoft's goal from the beginning of the entire Xbox gamble that they took 12 years ago has been the battle for the living room supremacy. And so Xbox is now a brand, as Mitch has summed up, and so the next machine is probably just going to be the Xbox Net, because that will just be a simple, identifiable brand that people, that mom and dad and just, okay, Xbox, yes, that's what I want, Xbox.
I love it. Microsoft is a 30-year-old company, 30-ish,
thereabouts.
I think.
Wow, we're old.
The Xbox brand is the only cool brand that company has ever had.
Are you dissing Zune?
I'm not dissing it. I'm just saying.
No, you are absolutely.
I will.
No,
sucked.
Yeah, I think they learned a lesson from Zune, and we don't have to look far as well for like exotically, weirdly named other consoles, i.e. the PlayStation Vita. Yeah, I think it completely makes sense, and it's convenient too. If they want to look for some proof in the market, they can easily look at the iPad.
Okay, the new Xbox. This is prediction number 5. The new Xbox will cost $400 in its most popular gamer-friendly configuration.
Yeah.
You say not a penny more. Although a basic, smaller storage version will run you $350.
Yeah, I think so. I look to this generation for that. I'm putting on my Michael Pachter hat for this one, and the reason. So, with the 360, $399 did great. It was huge demand. Remember when the 360 first came out, you couldn't find it for about 4 months. It was a very hot item. PlayStation 3, $499, and then of course the main model, $599, epic disaster. $399 is the sweet spot. That is what history has shown people will pay. They will gladly gobble it up. I don't think. Yeah,
delicious Xbox.
I don't think Microsoft will risk going any higher than that. They're gonna again stick to that 360 playbook. What works? Now I know there's so much more involved to it than me spouting off the top of my head. There's of course how much do the components, how much does it cost to make? this, that, and the other thing.
They'll have to sell it at a loss. Like
Well, but that's in every single console ever, other than a couple Nintendo has made, has always been. Even now the Wii U sells at a loss, when previously the GameCube and other Nintendo consoles did not. But yeah, I think $3.99 works. They're going to stick to that, even if they have to take a little bit of a bath on it for a while.
Now, you say the most gamer-friendly model for $3.99.
Yeah,
what's your prediction of what would come with that?
Hopefully at least a 500 gig storage drive.
What about a Kinect? Do you think the Kinect 2 will ship with it?
Kinect is coming with every single one, even the cheap model. The Kinect is going to be universal, so that Microsoft can say to the developers, everybody has it, do whatever you want, please do Kinect things.
Please.
Please.
So now this is interesting, because I think that it could inform the order in which these two companies, Microsoft and Sony, would want to actually come out with their announcements, because history tells us that Sony has enough bad sense to, once again, overprice the PlayStation 4, especially if they're going to try and make a play, which we kind of all secretly think they will, to make the Vita become the analog to the Wii U gamepad.
Right.
So for instance, if Sony came out the door with a bundle of the PlayStation 4 and the Vita at that $5.99 mark, Microsoft, well, Sony can do it.
That's not bad for a new console and a Vita.
And a
I think
Vita.
I would consider
I
that.
just can't pay $5.99 for anything.
I know. Well, but so if that happens first, then Microsoft could come in with their own presentation, the new Xbox.
See, you're doing it already.
I know.
Good
I know.
job.
And then this sub $1, $400 price tag, and they could, by comparison, just look like a completely different proposition.
Very true.
All right, we're halfway through here. Number 6 prediction is the new Xbox will be released in November. Kicks serious ass on both the tech bench and at retail store registers. What is the tech bench?
So I'm talking about the specs.
Okay. It'll be a cool system.
There were a couple of more supposed leaks that made the rounds online this week. We didn't report them because there's just nothing to substantiate them whatsoever. Yeah. But if there's any hint of truth to the numbers that have been floated out there, this thing's going to be pretty impressive. Especially in a closed system environment. A PC, like if you look at it as a PC spec, it's like, well, it's not too bad, but when it's a closed environment like a console,
all it does is play games.
Exactly. When you're coding exactly for that, and every single one of your customers has these specs, you can go to town on it. So yeah, I think the tech specs are going to be really impressive. Microsoft has been. A big success of the 360 was making it fairly PC-esque and easy to develop for, and developers jumped all over it, whereas as powerful as Cell is for the PS3, it took developers a long, long time to wrap their heads around.
They're still having problems with it.
Yeah. And so even today, most games, the lead SKU, the primary development happens on Xbox, and Microsoft's going to want to keep that trend continuing with the next Xbox.
November makes sense. For a release?
I think they're going to go as early as they can, because Sony wants to get out first, but so does Microsoft, so somebody's not going to be first. But Microsoft is in a bit more of a position to hang back this time if they have to. I just think they're going to need every last second to build up the supply, to lock in the hardware, because Microsoft's challenge is doing enough testing and taking enough steps to make sure that we do not have another Red Ring of Death type fiasco.
Right. And it's interesting you bring that up. I mean, rewind a couple years ago, and that's all people talked about in relation to the Xbox 360.
And now it's as if it never happened.
Exactly.
Right?
So
to Microsoft's credit, I mean, the 360 Slim, the machine that's sold now, is, I've said this before, it is what the Xbox should have originally been. It is a rock solid, dead silent, wonderfully put together piece of hardware that just
a great console.
Yeah. And the Vita is what the PSP used or should have been.
Yes.
Now you don't mention where this would line up. I mean, obviously we can't. But with Sony's launch, I think, to your point, I think that Microsoft is going to go first. I think they're going to take a play out of their book from last year, where they came out the week before Call of Duty, and I could see the Xbox come out like the first week of November, so that it's available. So that people who do want to play the new upcoming Call of Duty game, which is coming and will be developed for next generation and 360, will get those early adopters into playing Call of Duty.
It's funny you say that because I was looking at the calendar trying to decide. I was thinking of starting an IGN office pool actually of when do we think the systems are coming, and we could just all put some money in or something.
Winner gets one.
And the great date on the calendar this year, because most software releases come out on Tuesdays, and I guess hardware can generally be whenever, but Tuesday is a big day too. Tuesday, 11/12/13 this year, which is the big, like a couple years ago, Skyrim came out on 11/11/11. So 11/12/13 would just be perfect for somebody to jump on.
It's going to be a retail busy day.
But that's going to be Call of Duty. Call of Duty is always usually that second Tuesday of the month. So, and I just don't see Microsoft launching the console on the same day as Call of Duty. Not that Activision would be upset, but I just don't see Microsoft wanting to sort of confuse those two or compete with those two. So yes, I agree with you completely, Casey. I'm thinking if I had to add prediction 11, I would go with that first week of November. Absolutely.
I'm getting so excited. Number 7 is Bungie's new game Destiny will be the headliner at Microsoft's E3 press conference and be the flagship title for the new Xbox, though it will also be released for the Xbox 360.
Yeah.
So there's always that gray area in between consoles that we saw like with the last generation turnaround, where there's like Peter Jackson's King Kong on Xbox and Xbox 360.
Yeah.
So there's not much speculation about this one because court documents already leaked it for us.
That's right.
So this stuff has already been covered to death on IGN. In fact, if you can click in the story for that old story about those contracts and those leaks. And so we know that Destiny is coming out for the new Xbox, and we know it's also coming out for 360. And we know that it's a PS3 version is planned, but it's not. But the contract seems to state that Bungie can just can delay it or set it aside if they just need to get the Xbox version done. And we know that after the breakup, after Bungie separated from Microsoft, that Microsoft still sort of has the in and has the sort of first right of refusal on Bungie's new thing. And we know that Bungie's in this, they're in the Destiny for the next 10 years. They've gone on the record and said that publicly. So that's where the 360 version, they've got 50 million people that own 360 that they can sell a 360 version of Destiny to. But I think they're going to lead with the new Xbox version and build on that over the next 10 years. And Destiny 2 or whatever the next major release is probably won't have a 360 version. It'll transition to the new one.
I think so.
Yeah, we probably won't see 360 versions much past
probably for like
2014.
Right, like a year after launch.
Yeah.
As is usual.
Yeah. Number 8 is both the Xbox 360 and new Xbox versions of Destiny will be cross-compatible. It's all the same Xbox Live after all.
Yeah.
So like multiplayer?
I think so, because what we think we know about Destiny is that it's a large-scale, not an MMO, but a large-scale multiplayer game that is spacefaring. It's got ground things. It's a much larger version of Halo in that sense. And so the new Xbox is only going to have a pretty small installed base for the first little while. That's just reality. But the 360 version will have a huge installed base. And so it makes all the sense in the world to use the exact same Xbox Live service to tie those two games together to ensure that any sort of massively multiplayer component that Destiny might have, that the world is always populated with people. That's where I'm coming from on that one.
Yeah, and it says something interesting about the ecosystem of, well, we were just talking about Xbox Live Arcade, but their game service, their online service. I think we're going to see that across the board. I think the new Call of Duty game will do the same thing, which could possibly imply that the versions between the 360 and the new Xbox aren't going to be too different in the multiplayer.
Right.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree.
Functionality-wise, I think all of these games that come out on both will have to be nearly identical.
Right, but they are, I mean, we know marketing people, and they will do something with the new Xbox version to say, play this one, for reasons other than the fact
there has
that
to be
it's
some bullet
exclusive
points like
DLC.
Yeah, there'll be something large or small that goes along with it, but it won't be in the multiplayer because that will be shared between both platforms.
Then you predict that Alan Wake 2 and Forza Motorsport 5 will be two of Microsoft's biggest first-party exclusive launch titles for the new Xbox. Launch titles.
Yes.
I think in addition to those, you're also going to see, whether it's from, what's their new studio in Vancouver called?
Oh, I forget the name.
It's like Black Isle. Not Black Isle. That's old.
I'm blanking on it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Blue Rock.
Why?
Blue, Black Rock. Nope.
Nope,
That's another
they
dead
closed.
studio. I just keep
Anyway.
listing old studios. So Microsoft opened this new studio in Vancouver that they said is these guys are going to be doing like the new Halo. Not literally the Halo 5. They're going to do like the next flagship Microsoft title. It would make complete sense for Microsoft to come out of the gate with a new console, with a new IP, and say like, this is the future of Xbox, this game. In addition to old staples like Forza and Alan Wake.
Well, that's, yeah, we don't know.
There's
on
no
that
way they
one,
can launch
but-
with just sequels.
But Forza is, I would bet Mitch's job on that.
Oh man.
Because
Whoa.
if you look
Come on, turn his head.
Forza has been clockwork for the last number of years, every 2 years. And before anybody's like, what about Forza Horizon? That was a different developer. Turn 10's mainline Forza games have been every 2 years like clockwork. And we've seen some job listings out in the wilds of the internet that seem to indicate that follow this up, that say, yeah, it's going to be Forza 5 as a launch. And plus, again, my whole thing about following the 360 playbook, PGR 3, Project Gotham Racing 3, was a fantastic 360 launch, one of the best 360 launch titles. In fact, that game still holds up. That was you need a racing game to launch your console because racing games are super pretty, and one look at them and you go, whoa, I gotta have that system. And so PGR's gone. Bizarre Creations, sadly, rest in peace, is gone. Turn 10 is very much still around, and so is Forza, and I think you're going to see Forza 5 as the showcase, look at me title, visually speaking.
The Alan Wake 2, I'm a little bit more skeptical about, although it would be a very pleasant surprise for me. I'm a big Alan Wake fan.
So Remedy's been doing a lot of weird stuff. Like they have this, it's not official, nobody from Remedy has ever said like, hey, we own this. But Sam Lake, the writer of Alan Wake, will constantly tweet links to this like blogger blog.
Yeah,
which is
A
just
blogger blog?
there's
a
been
blogger
a
blog.
there's
Like
been a
blogger.com blog.
viral almost it's not an ARG, but
No.
it is. It's like a
It's just a collection of poetry that is very obviously written by Sam Lake because the author is Samantha.
as Alan Wake though.
As Samantha.
Or,
As someone
sorry,
named
yes.
Samantha, but is writing about Alan Wake, the person. And it's just this weird, vague collection of poetry. They tweet out all sorts of weird stuff, very related to Alan Wake. Lots of heavy hinting.
And on top of that, this is going back a little bit, but it might even be 2 years ago now, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. There was a news story that they're working on. Actually, it was when LA Noire came out. That Remedy has their own next-gen facial modeling technique. You remember this story?
Vaguely, yeah.
That they're working on, that they're going to be showcasing in their next game. And Alan Wake, by the end of the day, ended up doing pretty well on Xbox.
Yeah, it was a million
And
seller.
Fans love it. So I think, again, that's another one that it makes a lot of sense for that to be one of the showcase first-party titles on the new Xbox.
And finally, Harmonix will have a big new thing for Kinect 2.0 ready to go at the new Xbox's launch. Not a Dance Central? I think something new?
Maybe, but the reason I suspect that is a somewhat little-known fact about Dance Central 3, as fun as it is, it actually wasn't really developed by Harmonix. They outsourced it to...
Was it Backbone?
Correct.
Oh,
Who
well, they
is,
used to do.
Yeah, now they're gone.
Yeah, so Harmonix oversaw the construction of Dance Central 3, but they didn't actually do the legwork. That was done by Backbone. Harmonix has been very quietly toiling away on some new project since Dance Central 2 shipped.
Yeah.
And so they are clearly gearing up for the next generation Xbox. The timing all works out, and they were the killer app. Dance Central was the killer app for Kinect 1, and they've been they clearly have a very positive relationship with Microsoft, even going back to Rock Band. So they are at the forefront of Kinect development, and I think they're gonna be the first out of the gate with something really cool for Kinect 2.
Yeah, and we've been seeing job listings from them for a while that talk about motion games and talk about they're hiring a combat designer for something, hopefully like a kung fu game, because that'd be awesome. That just popped into my head.
Rock
Made
and
me
roll kung
very
fu,
happy. Oh man, that'd be
Careful
awesome.
what you ask for. There was like a motion kung fu game for PlayStation.
Yeah, and it was
PSN.
awful. The one that like took your photo with the
Yes.
PlayStation
And
Eye.
then you did all your moves and.
Ugh, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Lots of interesting stuff here. Lots of good stuff to think about here.
It's going to be an awesome year.
This year, for real. I mean, you're already watching IGN. It's going to be the most fun year to follow video games and to follow Xbox since 2005, 2006, which is coincidentally the last time we did.
So console launch years are just fun.
Yeah,
years.
it really is. And yeah, there's so many cool things to look forward to. Even getting back to the first prediction with Summer of Arcade and State of Decay and Loco Cycle. Before we even get to the awesome run up to the new consoles, we've got the first half of the year packed with
great games.
Some of the best games of the entire generation. GTA 5,
Gears of War
BioShock,
Judgment,
Gears, etc., etc. So this is going to be the most fun year we've had in a long, long time.
The other thing that we're not even touching on is, other than Harmonix and some of the few games we mentioned, is what are the big third-party developers going to do, and what do they have up their sleeves? And we just don't know. I mean, we already said the second half of this year is just a big question mark. It's going to be so cool to see. Are we going to get a new Fight Night game? Are we going to get I mean, there's so many directions.
Where's Rainbow Six? Where's Prince of Persia?
Well, for sure. But what about things that we haven't even heard about yet?
Oh yeah, I mean, all the new toys.
Watch Dogs is just the first glimpse of what the next generation has in store.
1313.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we can definitely count. We got Battlefield 4.
Yep.
We've got Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4.
Sure.
Those are both. Speaking to your point, Casey, about multi-SKU 360 and new Xbox versions. Yep. I would bet Mitch's job on both of those happening.
Come on, guys. Help me out.
You're gonna be okay.
You're fine. You're fine.
We know what we're doing.
All right.
Send resumes for Mitch's job to jobs@ign.com.
Thanks a lot, gentlemen. GameScoop will return after these messages. Stay tuned.